Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. Today we'll be discussing black-eyed kids, the BEKs as they're known. I'm Doug, and joining me today again is Deb. Been a little bit, Deb.
Yes, it has.
My chair's squeaking.
God, I hate your squeaky chair. Jesus. How many times have we discussed getting a new chair?
So the black-eyed kids, we discussed this. That's been months, and we really weren't happy with the lack of information that we had on it. I mean, there's been we have a lot of instances where the black-eyed kids show up, and then the people see them, and then what happens?
Nobody ever let them in.
Nobody ever let.
We need to know what happens when you let them in.
So, there's some history of the black-eyed kids, it looks like. We'll kind of start with that.
So, this says that there's one report. Brian Bethel, I think we did him before. I think we talked about Brian Bethel in the late 90s. And so, I guess these are the people that are responding to that. In short, black-eyed kids, which I have a hard time saying the word kids, or alternately black-eyed children, which is much easier.
Black-eyed children would be more appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know. I never liked the word kids. Are entities of unknown origin that approach individuals and request or demand entry into their homes or vehicles. They appear as children, usually ranging from ages about 8 to late teens, and their defining physical characteristic is these solid black eyes with no white showing, which, that's creepy. What black-eyed children want is open to debate, but it's likely not good. Below is some history. So now we have some history. Some anecdotal reports.
We don't know what they want. Okay, so we don't know what they want.
They want in.
They want permission to enter our lives in some way.
Yeah, they want in.
There are occasional reports of people that let them in, and people usually it usually comes up with people fleeing.
Well, yeah, because they're just standing there, and usually they're like kind of dressed in clothing that isn't traditional. They don't speak much. Again, they've got those creepy eyes, and so
they wear clothes that are outdated or wrong for the season.
There's usually 2 to 4 of them. Usually somewhere between 8 and late teens. I would say trick-or-treating age seems to be, where they draw the line. Once you're done trick-or-treating, you can no longer be a black-eyed child. They wear clothes that are outdated or wrong for the season. They speak loud, oddly, as if whatever language. I don't know, so far we've only heard about English-speaking ones, but I'm assuming there's some non-English.
Yeah, they're all over they're all over the earth, so
everywhere.
They can speak any language.
They're very demanding and pushy, which what kids are.
There's nothing unusual about that.
They usually they request entry into your home, your car, or your life. They appear and disappear without any explanation. Sometimes they exhibit psychic powers. That would freak me out.
Yeah, that is a little unusual.
And creepy, they can disrupt and affect your electrical devices, which means we've got one here. We just don't see it. That makes our Wi-Fi just go out whenever it wants to. We must have a closet black-eyed child.
It's probably just something to do with our can opener. That's what I'm thinking.
What it is?
It's a black-eyed kid thing.
Okay.
Deb has a lot of trouble with the can opener.
It doesn't work. and they have an aura that scares and disturbs animals. And so, since we have the most volatile German Shepherd on Earth, then maybe that explains the constant barking. So here's Justin's encounter.
Are they demons? Wait a minute. Are they demons, or what are these things? Demons or alien hybrids, or they seem to need permission. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah,
to gain entry.
We've got a few options here. They are thought of sometimes as a demon, and also like a vampire, because they have to.
You have to let them in.
I never knew that vampires had to ask permission until I read the series True Blood. I had never, I guess, not been a vampire until it, turned into a young adult novel, and then I read True Blood and learned all about vampires.
So when people you read True Blood, so when do they knock?
They come to the door. Yeah, they come to the door, and they have to say, "Please let me in." And if you say no, then they can't come in.
What about the bat flying in the window at night while you're sleeping, and then they materialize and the vampire bite you?
That was on the Munsters. Wasn't that Grandpa?
I want to suck your blood.
See, I've never studied vampires. I just, and in True Blood, once you invite them in, then they have, free range of your house until you say, you are no longer welcome here.
Is that all you have to do?
Yeah.
If you say as long as they don't bite you first.
But then in True Blood, the vampires have learned to drink synthetic blood so that they can walk among us. So it's very real.
That's what I was thinking.
It's very realistic.
Realistic. And what about,
we made something for the vampires so that they could be our friends.
I see.
So somebody says that perhaps in some way these creatures need to gain some sort of entry with our energy before they can do whatever they need to do. In any case, encounters with them always has negative consequences. Sickness, accidents.
Are they alien hybrids, Deb? I mean, really?
Possibly. They could be possibly, because they have those black eyes, and we know aliens have black eyes.
But I'm just kind of thinking, okay, they're alien hybrids. What is there? There's usually 2 or 3 of them at least, I think, when they come to the door. I'm curious to understand what they're looking for.
Aliens aren't good
They just do bad stuff and leave.
Well, some of them don't even really do anything. I mean, they kind of, they upset the electrical power in the house or something, but they don't. I haven't seen any, there's been no murderous rampages of the black-eyed children.
I don't know.
They said another reason that they could be a UFO phenomenon is their clothing is out of place. Now, I don't know. Do we really know that aliens would be unstylish?
Well, from what I understand, aliens wear little blue jumpsuits.
The ones on your shirt are naked.
Well, I know.
You have naked aliens on your shirt.
Aliens don't believe in you either. That's what my shirt says. I know we're not on video yet, but that's what it says. And yeah, they're naked. But the ones at Roswell, it's reported that they wore tiny jumps. They were about 4 feet.
Like little old men wear?
Like little men, yeah.
Little men wear those little coveralls that
overalls. And like a space flight jumpsuit.
Okay.
In one piece.
Because little old men seem to have some special access to that one piece jumpsuit. It comes in either brown or baby blue.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's interesting.
Well, they could also be something completely unique, something we can't classify. We know they are solid, unlike shadow people and ghosts. We also know that they don't appear in homes uninvited like ghosts or demons, which leaves us within the opportunity. The other explanation is they're just something completely unique.
So we've got some
terrifying encounters.
Now, last time we did this, we had a few encounters, and they weren't. These are a little more detailed, and then this one's they're entirely black, insist on entering your vehicle or home. They ooze an overwhelming sense of panic and fear, and I mean, there are hundreds of encounters with these. I mean, have you heard of anybody talking to black-eyed kids?
I have never heard of a person with anything like this.
So then there's the first one you can tell us about, the Midnight Caller.
The Midnight Caller. It almost felt like a dream. I woke up to my dog Lucy barking. Don't bark. You're gonna hear the dog's gonna hear you. She was upright on the bed where my husband and I were sleeping with our 22-month-old daughter. Oh, the whole family's in bed. Staring at our door like an unknown stranger was out there rummaging around. I thought she was just freaking out over house noise. We'd only had her for 3 months and she was still a puppy. It could have been anything. I wasn't too concerned initially. I decided the best bet would be to open the door and show her nothing was there. Great plan.
Look, there's nothing there, and then there is.
It sounds a bit silly, but that's what we do with our daughter when she gets scared. I figured should work with the dog too. I opened the door and she raced to the front door. She stood there snarling at the door as an angry, violent growl. I looked groggily at her and opened the baby gate blocking the doorway, planning to open the door and show her everything was okay. Never distrust the dog. The second my hand reached for the deadbolt, Lucy went wild. She started barking and jumped towards me. And when I touched the metal, she suddenly changed her temper. She whimpered almost like she was afraid and backing down. As her mannerism changed, so did mine. My heart was
It
racing.
wasn't calm anymore.
Yeah.
The dog's scared.
Yeah. So when I see my dogs, because even nothing scares dogs, they usually just want to go at everything 99 miles an hour. My heart was racing and sinking at the same time. I was flooded with a mixture of fear and dread. I looked through the peephole. I can't explain why I looked, but I did. Well, because it's the smart thing to do. Don't open the damn door. Outside were two kids. One was just a smidgen shorter than me and didn't look much younger. I'm 21 and she looked to be 16 or 17. She was slender and pale. Her hair was a light shade of honey blonde and she wore it long with thin blunt bangs in the front that covered most of her eyes. She wore jeans and a thin-looking olive-colored pullover-style hoodie. She held the hand of a small girl who looked around 3 or 4 in the same style of clothing. The smaller one looked at the floor shyly but had the same shade of hair tied back in a ponytail. She held a stuffed toy. Oh, this would freak me out. She held a stuffed toy under her free arm, and it was identical to one my daughter has, as was their style of dress. Had it not been for the feeling of overwhelming dread and fear, probably I would have asked these children in and given them some tea or hot chocolate to get them out of the bitter cold. Something about them seemed off. At this point, I hadn't made any noise. I hadn't shushed the dog or grumbled. Nothing. Hadn't turned on any lights. These kids had no indicators I was at the door. And then the older one spoke.
Where's the husband?
Sleeping. With the daughter. She didn't
even wake up.
Him and the toddler are asleep. She had a voice that was mature, confident, strong, and accentless. She held her head tilted downward and I couldn't see her eyes. She said, "We have to use your phone." I stood frozen in fear, flung my cell phone out the door. That's what I would do. How did she know I was there? She raised her head to face me directly, and that's when I saw her eyes. There was a reason I couldn't see them through her bangs before, because they were black, or midnight blue, or dark purple. They were otherworldly. She said, "Our mother is worried."
Wait, they have black?
Black,
bangs.
midnight blue, or dark purple. I don't know.
Her bangs are black and she had blonde hair?
No. There was a reason I couldn't see the eyes through the bangs. It's because they were so dark.
I thought she said she had blonde hair halfway down her back.
Yeah, but she had bangs, but she wasn't seeing the eyes because they were just black, and it just looked so weird. As someone who has always been interested in creepy stories, I knew what she was the second she looked at me through the door. I've never been one to believe in these things. As a staunch atheist and skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, I had written off many a ghost story from friends and family members eager to tell their tale. I didn't believe it. Still, I couldn't rationalize my way out of this. I did not answer her. Slowly and silently, I backed away from the door. Lucy still cowering at my ankles.
I'm not opening a door if the dog's scared.
No.
Sorry. I'm like, go away.
The dog
go to our neighbors will take care of you. Go next door.
She said, the little girl said, "Just let us in to use your phone." I took another step back, and with that step, the tone changed. At first, she seemed polite. When I took that second step back, she became commanding, almost hostile. "We're not going to hurt you. If we wanted to do that, we would have broken in. I'll ask again. May we come in and use your phone?" "No, you may not use my phone."
And now Lucy's snarling.
Lucy snarled, and I inched backward, though something inside me seemed to be slowly pulling me back towards the door. It wasn't a physical pulling so much as a subconscious need to go back and let them in. Yeah, this is what I would do. I got to my room, covered up the window, locked the door, and sat there in the dim light of the nightlight. Again, where is the husband in all this?
Still sleeping.
I heard her call me back to the door once more, and then quiet. I didn't go back to sleep that night and haven't slept right since. So when I told my husband, he said it was just a dream. He keeps telling me to forget it, but this lingering feeling of sadness, this dread when the house is silent at night.
Well, they can't come in without permission. That's the deal, right?
Well, maybe she doesn't. She
just
doesn't
like
believe in them, so she might not believe that either.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd ever truly believe that, because really, what if they? The girl said we could have just broken in, and
Yeah. Need to call the police. Okay, yeah, the police will have a phone, so stand by.
That's.
And they'll get you back to your parents. And so she had this lingering of sadness and dread and
She said,
and fear.
I think her husband. See, I would just assume it was a dream, because I've had some really vivid dreams in my past that like dreams that I was getting up and answering the door, getting up and talking on the phone. And then the next day, talking to somebody, going, did we talk on the phone? No. No.
It was just a dream.
It was all a dream. Now we have a bus encounter. There is a picture of a black-eyed kid, but it kind of looks like somebody took a picture and drew black over the eyes of a kid.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not a real picture. So they were riding the bus back home after work.
At 1 a.m. Security guard. I'm a security guard and often work odd hours.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and this guy gets on, sits across from me, wearing a suit, it's a briefcase, regular looking guy, in his 20s. And then he says, what struck me about him first was he's chewing a cigar. Not smoking it, just chewing on it.
Yeah, you can't smoke on the bus.
No, but you can chew.
Yeah, you can chew on the bus.
And then so all of a sudden he turned and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black. My heart started beating. He cursed.
Well, he's 20, isn't he aged out? Is he aged
I know,
out?
see, I didn't think they could be. I thought it said to teens.
Yeah, well, as in certain activities, maybe it aged out at 19, but his birthday was past June. June.
I really don't.
And he can go another year.
I don't see a black-eyed kid carrying a briefcase and wearing a suit. See, we'd always heard that they had.
They're just standing there.
They're usually just in their kind of odd clothing and looking a little out of date. This guy's he's a businessman.
Yeah.
But this guy freaked out.
Maybe he's a manager. Black-eyed kid manager.
A dead-eyed manager.
Dead-eyed manager.
He says he grinned at me and his teeth were all covered in tobacco bits and brown juice, the cigar clamped between them. Now, I've seen people like this, and they were not black-eyed kids. They're just nasty old men, even if they are 20. There was someone.
Is there something you care to? You get off your chest.
When I was a kid and I worked in the pet store, there was an old man named Frank who would come in, and back then this is when you could still smoke in public, and he would come in smoking a cigar, and there would always be a trail of snot between his nose and the cigar that he was smoking, and I've never really gotten over that.
Is that why you discouraged me from smoking cigars?
Oh God, yeah! Please don't snot on your cigar and smoke it.
That's a great visual.
Oh, it was so gross, and he was just nasty. He was all hunched over, and he'd come in. Here's what I need, and he'd just start, yelling at you.
What did he buy?
Stuff for cat. He had cats. So, and he spent money. He had money. So the owner of the pet store, of course, kissed his ass all over the place. And I went running out the back door. I said, yeah, this isn't making me any extra money. So, and I was like 15. I was not prepared to deal with this nasty old man. And he would just bark orders, and he was just gross. So we have 10 fun facts about the black-eyed kids.
Fun facts, kids. What do we got?
Yeah, we've already gone over these pretty much. They look like normal human children, usually between 6 and 16. We had 8 and 17. We going back and forth and then. Yeah. But they usually have pale skin and the completely black eyes. People who have been in close proximity to them usually report a feeling of unease. Nothing about them other than, those creepy eyes seems frightening, except, people, whenever they have an encounter with them, they have this horrible feeling of dread. Well, then there is the once in a while they have talons for feet.
Oh, well, that's
I would think that would.
that would yeah. I wouldn't let anybody in like that.
But most of the time, they just seem exactly like normal children with black eyes. Their dated dress. They always ask for something involved in them being in close quarters with you. It means they want to ride in your vehicle, they want to get inside your house, and usually they want to use your phone. You'd think that aliens would be beyond needing to use a phone by this point.
It's just a ruse to get in the house.
Just to get in. They don't need your phone.
They don't really need a phone.
There are no stories. Now we have found stories where what happens once you let them in your home, because we had a story on the last time about the people that actually let them into their home, and the guy ended up falling down and having an accident. It's like while they were there, they brought bad luck and bad feelings with them. There's theories that they're vampires, they're aliens, they're demons. So now we have somebody that I guess we're a housewife, because it says it's a person who's a domestic engineer.
Oh.
Living in Texas. This was on Halloween night, and it was a slow trick-or-treat night in the neighborhood, and they'd say we'd had no more than 8 or 10 groups of kids come by the entire night, which, in this day and age would be 1 million kids compared to what, we had this year, which was none.
No, we had one set.
Yeah, the ones that live next door.
We should have just emptied our whole bag of candy in there. I gained like 4 pounds.
We hadn't had any activity at the door for over half an hour, and it was getting late. So we decided to just turn the porch light off and let the dog out of her crate. Chloe's an American Bulldog and is very docile. We put her in her crate because we were afraid she'd want to play with all the kids and didn't want to have to chase her up and down the street. Also, we didn't want her to scare the kids. So I turned the light off, let Chloe out, and she followed me back to the couch, laid down at my feet. It's about 10 o'clock when my husband decided he'd had enough fun for the night and was going upstairs to take a shower and get ready for bed. After all, it was Thursday, and he still had to get up early the next day.
About Thursday night football? He's not watching Thursday night football.
It's... Oh, and there is Thursday.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, it's 10 o'clock.
I've had many a Thursday. Oh,
it's 10 o'clock. It's over. Relax.
Well, they close down late.
He's an American, okay? Please don't call the person un-American because they're not watching football. My teenage son was out with his friends. Wasn't expected back for another hour or so that left me alone with Chloe. Now, just because I don't believe doesn't mean those shows don't freak me out a bit. So it wasn't long after I heard the upstairs water for the shower turn on when there came a light, knock, 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 at the front door.
Hey, the lights are off. Just don't answer. Lights are off. We're not getting any more candy. It's 10 o'clock. I don't ever leave. I mean, this might be in small town America or something. Yeah. But we're usually done 9 o'clock. That's it. Yeah. Anybody that comes after 9 o'clock,
they're usually a problem.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction was, what the hell? Really? It's almost 10 o'clock. Go home.
Yeah.
But soon an uneasy feeling came over me. Why the knock? Our doorbell glows in the dark, and without the porch light on, it would be extra obvious to anyone there. That they can't ring a doorbell? I paused. I really couldn't just ignore it. Our front door has a big beveled glass panel, and anybody right at the door could see it enough to see someone was in the family room watching TV, and it would be rude for me to just sit there and not answer it. They knocked again. I glanced down at Chloe, and she was gone.
Well, I'm out.
Yeah, I know. Gone. My gaze followed her usual path to the front door, expecting her to be on her way there, which is what dogs do. Nope, she wasn't there. I stood up to look around the room better and found her crouching by the back door like she wanted out. However, she never asked to go out like that. She always comes and licks my hands or put her head on my knee. Oh, she's got another one of those like ours.
Yeah.
This was totally out of character for her, and I have to say heightened my anxiety. Chloe, crate, I said, and she just turned to look at me like, hell no, lady. I'm going.
They can get me too easily if I'm in there.
I'm out. I yelled up to my husband, but he was already in the shower. I knew there was no chance of him hearing me. At about that time, a car drove down our street and cast just enough light on the door to where I could see the silhouette of 2 small children through the glass. I instantly felt relief. It was just some kids, probably a couple of my neighbors on their way back home. They wanted to stop by and show me their costume. I headed to the door and looked back to make sure Chloe wasn't going to follow. What a great watchdog, I thought to myself as she just sat there. I turned on the porch light when I got to the door, and sure enough, I could see through the glass there was a couple of pretty small kids. A little late for such young ones, I thought, and began to wonder about what kind of parents would let their kids run the street that late at night. I opened the door enough to where I could block Chloe's escape if she decided to grow some balls.
Nice.
I don't know, she's picking on the poor dog.
Wow.
What struck me immediately as odd was the kids weren't wearing any costumes. They were in normal street clothes. And also, they didn't say trick or treat. It was a girl and a boy. The girl was older, about 11 or 12. She was blonde. I couldn't make out any features. And I hadn't opened the door wide enough for any light from inside to hit them directly. The boy was younger and about a foot shorter, about 8 or 9, seemed to have light brown hair. The girl very politely spoke up, "Ma'am, can we please come inside and use your phone to call my mom?" As she spoke, something in the pit of my stomach was telling me something was wrong. What kid, even at that age, doesn't have a cell phone of their own these days? So, she says, "Hun, don't you have a phone? Don't you have a phone of your own? Can you call your mom on?" And then things got really weird. Both kids turned to look at one another like they were going to say something to one another, but neither one spoke. They were doing that telepathy thing.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
They both turned back to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my cell phone battery doesn't have any charge left in it. Can we please come inside and call our mother? We're alone out here, and my brother is scared." I have to admit, there were two competing feelings going on inside me. The first, the mom heart that wanted to tell these two small children, help these children get to their mom. The other, sinking fear in my gut that was keeping the other feeling at bay. So I noticed that I'd already opened the door a few extra inches, and I stopped. "Honey, why don't you give me your mother's number? I can call her myself." Another pause. They looked at one another. After a short moment, they turned to me, and the girl said, "Ma'am, my little brother has to use your bathroom. Can we please come inside while you call our mom?" And with that last statement, she moved closer towards the door like
Just
she
give
was
me the
going to walk by
number.
my
Just say,
house.
"Stay where you are. Give
Little
me the
boy,
number."
You pee in the bushes.
Yeah.
As she did, she stepped into the light coming from inside the house, and I got my first real look at her. Solid jet black eyes. That's all I could see. That motherly instinct was gone.
Replaced by terror.
Terror I don't think I've ever felt in my life. I could feel every hair on my arms and the back of my neck standing at attention. I closed the door to where my face was able to stick out, and the little girl stopped again, pleaded, "Please, ma'am, we're really scared and alone out here. We have to come back inside. Please help us." Then on cue, both the kids began to whimper and cry. That's when the fear took over. I shut and locked the door. "You stay out there and cry. I'll call your mom if you give me the number, but I'm not letting you in my house." Part of me wanted to run upstairs to my husband, but the bigger part didn't want to lose track of where they were. That would have freaked me out. That's true. You want to follow, you see them leave your house. After what seemed like forever, but was probably only a few seconds, I decided I'd call my neighbor that lives across the street. As I made my way to the side table by our couch to my phone, I glanced at the back door. Closed.
She's doing everything but contact her husband upstairs.
I know, the poor guy's up there just showering
sleeping
away. Chloe was nowhere to be found. We later found her in the guest room under the bed. When I got to the phone and started to look for the contact info, it was only then the kids stepped away from the door and began to walk the street. As they did, I walked to the door to get a better look to see where they went. Still not calling my neighbor. You just don't care about people, do you? If you get close enough to the glass, you can see out enough to make out people's shapes. But you can still see much. Can't see much detail. Of course, standing that close to the door would make you pretty obvious to anyone outside looking in. From the door, I could see that the kids were still standing under the street lamp nearest my house, staring at me. As I lifted the phone to my ear, after calling, only then did the kids start walking down our street. I met my neighbor out under the street lamp once he was out there, but the kids were nowhere to be seen. Ooh, like I said, I don't believe in any of this stuff. I had never even heard about black-eyed kids before talking to my
Max.
friend. What I have to think is these kids were out yanking people's chains on Halloween night. But I will say this for them, they were really good, and they scared the shit out of me and my dog.
We're going to take a quick break and take care of some housekeeping here with our new sponsor, Orion Bank Card Services.
Just A and B?
A and the last thing there.
Okay.
There you go.
We would like to welcome a new sponsor to the Alien Probe podcast, Orion Bank Services. Do you own a business and take credit cards for payments? Are your fees higher than you'd like? Not sure? Want to find out? If your answer is yes to any of these questions, check out Orion Bank's Card Services. At Orion BCS, their goal is to find the best program and rates available for your business. Their team has years of experience helping clients find lower rates for processing credit cards. They understand that every business is different. So let them spend the time to find out what suits your business best. So visit orionbcs.com and let them begin the process towards saving you money to help you realize your financial goals. Once again, visit Orion, ORIONBCS.com and contact them today. All programs, do I read that? Mm-hmm. All programs of Orion BCS are subject to terms and conditions. Visit orionbcs.com for more details.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I've got to do the disclaimer.
That was my first time.
Very nice.
I know.
Very good. So the next one's a text message video when the black-eyed kids show up. Years ago, I heard these creepy stories about kids with black eyes who'd go into your car or home, commonly referred to as the BEKs, black-eyed kids. This phenomena is from the perspective of someone who has escaped an encounter with one of them. No one really knows what happens when you... What is
acquiesce.
That word?
That is acquiesce and let them into your home.
Well, the person in this text chain might.
You must let me in. So March 17th of 2008, I had my one and only encounter with a black-eyed kid. Before my experience, I'd never heard of anything having to do with them. I was 12. Oh, you could be a black-eyed kid yourself. You're right in that age range.
Yeah, that's how I act. 12.
I was sitting outside of a hairdresser's in an old Chevy pickup. Oh, this is like a country song.
Yep.
I was sitting outside of a hairdresser's in an old Chevy pickup waiting for my mom to get her hair cut.
And a black-eyed kid show up.
About 15 minutes had passed and I saw some kid walking back and forth along the sidewalk in front of my parked car. At first I thought I recognized him as one of my friends from school, so I banged on the front windshield until he looked my way. That's very polite. You couldn't just open a window. It was not anyone I knew. At this point, I wasn't scared at all. Not yet. The boy walked over to the side of my car and just stares. I think to let me get a good look at his eyes, to freak me out. Let me tell you, if you ever seen a black-eyed kid, you have no idea what to imagine. Pupils black as the night sky. The boy whispers, "You must let me in." Then I locked the car doors and ducked into the space below the seats. 5 minutes later, he was gone.
Old Chevy truck's probably a good thing you'd never Slim Jim. Black-eyed kids with Slim Jims.
An old key will let you in.
Yeah, you have to. I guess you have to be invited one word.
When my mother got into the car, she told me a boy with black eyes had come into the hairdresser's, insisted my mother give him the keys to the car. And give me the keys to your car.
That's not very polite.
I thought he said, huh. Okay, so the next one is, I just want to see when somebody lets them
you
in.
can do a little, thank God she did.
I know, that's funny. Thank God she did. Well, why would you ever give anybody the keys to your car? Give me the keys to your car.
Are black-eyed kids real, Deb?
I don't know.
I've been sitting here still trying to figure out.
We've been through this a lot. I mean, a lot of people have seen them. So obviously there is something out there that these people are seeing. They can't all be a dream or whatever.
Looks like the original sighting was in 1996 by a newspaper reporter.
Yeah.
Telling what he experienced was more of a curiosity than fame-seeking.
Yeah.
He maintains the story happened the way he told it. There are many independent...
Yeah, he was the one in the car, right? He was the one that was in the car and they approached his car.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the original... I guess that's where this thing started. I mean, could it take off I mean,
just
it's
based on
big.
that, just based on one
Just
person
one
saying it.
incident, and then it turned into.
Well, people, herd mentality. People tend to believe what other people believe. It's like, oh yeah, I did see one of those.
Kind of like UFOs.
Exactly, the crazy people that see UFOs. So
they're out there.
So we, in 2010, this person was walking home from work and found myself escorting a young lady to her car. She asked me to escort her, and hoping I'd talk her into a drink or two. Because I'd already had a few myself, and maybe I'd get a number or possibly get laid that night.
Oh, yeah, this is a PG show, all right?
I'm not going to lie. She was kind of hot. No shit, though. She looked scared. Well, yeah, because you're trying to...
Yeah, you're a creeper.
I'll walk you to your car, young lady. What's a pretty lady like you doing out alone? I kept walking with her and was trying to at least coax out of her what she was so worried about. She would only comment about some really creepy looking kids that were following her. Being we were in the downtown Seattle area, this could amount to anything. So we kept walking and talking, and I kept looking behind us to see if this man cusses a lot.
The little effers were in tow.
God, we're in tow. But nothing popped up out of the ordinary. But nothing popped up.
Yeah.
Then she grabs my arm really hard and whispered, "That's them." They were about a half a block in front of us and just standing there and looking at her. Maybe they wanted her number like you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great.
So I do the prudent thing, which was cross the street. I make sure I lock eyes with the big one, and I keep in mind once I get the lady to her car that I give them an earful about being a couple of little shits for scaring a lone woman in a metropolitan area.
Wow.
You're the big man.
Words.
Well, he's had a couple drinks at this point, so,
Yeah.
He's not. So I didn't get scared or anything, but I did notice something strange. They did not break eye contact with me. Mind you, I don't look like the kind of guy you want to mess with. Honestly, it's an unconscious front since I'm a bit shy. My look reminds people of either a skinhead or a club bouncer. Oh, you're a prize.
Well, this guy's got a lot of stuff to say about himself. Rather than
I know.
Story.
Where he doesn't talk much about the kids, but he
It's
tells
like,
us that
kind of a tough guy.
he wears black tanker boots. I wear black tanker boots, and I have a Van Dyke mixed with the above. Don't make me look like a people person either. People break eye contact with me constantly. These two kids did, and that was a red flag for me.
What's a Van Dyke?
Just the little pointy beard right here.
Oh,
no
really?
Mustache, just beard. Yeah,
Oh, really?
That's a Van Dyke, yeah.
Should I sport that? Should I rock that look?
You should probably get a little pointy chin here. Yeah.
I don't have the chin for it.
I finally got the woman to her car. She said thanks. I told her where the local police station is, which was about 5 blocks away. Yeah, he handled that. We got no information about the children.
So is that Seattle? Okay, that was Seattle.
Seattle. Mm-hmm.
West Seattle. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've determined that's 2010. I'm just trying to
see when it's happening.
When's it happen? I mean, this isn't every maybe days. So trick or treat.
Now we have another trick or treat story.
Could it be that? I mean, we're gonna go through it, but I mean, maybe they're just trick or treaters, or they're using that as an opportunity.
They don't say trick or treat,
and they don't allow. You can open the door. Is it still? Are you? The fact that you open the door and giving them candy, that doesn't fall under inviting them in the house, does
I don't know. Because
what are the rules?
The one lady said the girl kept like pushing the door open more, like trying to to insinuate her way in. I would never trust that. You have to invite them in, because otherwise it'd be fun to just stand there in the doorway and taunt them. Here's my phone. Ha ha ha! You can't get it.
I'm not taunting that. Bad things.
Do not tease the children.
Yeah, I don't. Anymore. Yeah, very short sentences and okay, be on your way, please.
This one, we're on another Halloween, and this guy's his neighbor didn't put out his Halloween decorations, and you know how upsetting that is.
Yeah.
And he says I don't know this neighbor well. He's younger and single, but I know he likes kids, but not in a creepy way. Sure.
Oh, that's good.
What they always say.
Yeah.
Yeah, his brother and sister-in-law, they're always visiting, and he's got 3 nieces and nephews, and
it's probably fine.
They're always
just
playing with the yard.
Just likes kids, Dad. Don't Don't think anything weird.
So anyway, when I got home from work, I saw him outside and said, "Hey, man, you better get your Halloween stuff up or that house up the street is going to beat you for best decorations."
Wow.
He kind of smiled sheepishly and said that he's actually going to keep his house dark this year and just put candy out. But he said, because he said something last year really scared him. Now I'm concerned for my own safety. If some weirdos were coming around our neighborhood, which is a pretty safe neighborhood, you know. So I asked him what happened. He said last year he had his brother's family over so they could trick or treat in the neighborhood since they live in an apartment complex. He had a bunch of kids come to the door. His family took off around 10:30 and there were only a few older trick-or-treats. But by 11:30, they were pretty much done. Man, these people trick-or-treat way later
Well,
than
I'm
we
going
do.
to tell you, when I used to go trick-or-treating,
Yeah.
the apartments were the place to go. Because
Right.
you could bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
100 apartments.
Right.
And
Yeah,
just
well,
tons
he said,
of candy.
He said this
I don't care if they're decorated.
He said this apartment complex isn't into it, so I don't know.
Give me your candy.
Yeah. So I mean, these trick or treaters 11:30 they're done. I'm in bed by that time. So he's inside watching TV and the doorbell rings. He grabs the candy bowl and heads over. It's 11:30, okay? And he grabs the candy bowl. Oh no, now it's just past midnight. And that's what the hell are you doing answering the door? So he says that's pretty rude for trick-or-treaters to still be out, but then notices he hasn't turned off all his decoration lights yet, so
See, it's his own fault.
his house is still a beacon. He swings the door open and is about to yell boo or something to freak them out, but stops dead when he sees the kids at the door. One was probably around 13 or 14, and the other one about 16 or 17. They're both boys. They're not dressed up, but the older boy was wearing a flannel checkered shirt.
No, if he's wearing a flannel checkered shirt, that's good enough for Halloween.
Is it?
Yeah.
So he's like a hobo?
Yeah.
Or a hobo. Or a hipster?
He's not a hipster.
He's immediately overcome with uneasiness.
Does he have a Van Dyke?
Like, opening the door was a huge mistake. Duh. It's midnight. They just stared at him and he noticed they had really big irises and dilated pupils. He couldn't even see the whites of their eyes, so he figured they were contact lenses. Yeah, because kids constantly wear big black contact lenses. He was frozen there holding the candy bowl, but he couldn't slam the door in their face as much as he wanted to. So he nervously tried to smile at them, hoping they would break character and ask for candy or something. The younger one said they had gotten lost and needed to come in and use his phone. That was when he closed the door more than halfway and said, "No, sorry." And the older one said something like, "Can we just wait until your house, until our parents come get us?" But by then he was convinced that his life was in danger and these kids must be high on something or intending to rob him. And he just kept mumbling, "No, sorry, good night," as he inched the door closed and locked it. He told me he was so scared at this point they were going to try and break through one of his windows or something, but he looked through the peephole and they had turned to leave. He watched the TV with the volume low. Heaven forbid you turn off the TV so he can hear any sounds at all.
You know, in case you got to still watch TV.
No, really, you can turn that off. The whole time he's telling me this, I'm thinking, oh my God, this sounds so familiar, just like those black-eyed kids from the urban legend. Then I thought, maybe this dude is trying to scare me because after all, he does have the Halloween spirit. So I'm like, man, that sounds really crazy. Like the black-eyed kids, and just looks at me blankly and said, "The what? Is that a movie or something?" And I said, no, but I told him to go look it up online. It is a movie, right? Wasn't there a movie about it?
Yeah, I think there is a BEK movie.
Like an hour later, I get a knock on my door, thinking it's a demon child because, you know, now he's got you all freaked out. And it was my neighbor, and he swears to me up and down that he never, ever heard of the BEKs before. And it's so similar to what happened to him. And then this person says every story I've read about them is from someone who already knew about them. See, that's what you're thinking, is that these people have heard about them. And
have
then
you heard about? I've never.
I had never
think
heard.
We talked about this before. Mm-hmm. I've never before this.
It came up on my Facebook. Story. Yeah, it came on my Facebook because I follow.
Then it has to be true.
I follow weird things. I think it's Weird History or something like that I follow on Facebook. So that's what brought it to my attention. So this person was, spending a productive evening listening to music and watching YouTube videos with one headphone in so they can hear the kid if it cries because, that's, you don't want to give your child full attention. So you know, YouTube in one ear, child in the other.
Yeah.
And
That's how it goes.
just as I dozed off, I heard a thumping coming from the front porch.
What's the kid doing?
Realizing it was most likely my cat scratching himself on the front porch, I dozed back off, and then I hear more thumping. I got out of bed and I go run off the stupid cat that's needs probably some flea medication or something. And the cat wasn't there. But I'm up and I'm not tired, so I'll just figure I'll check Facebook while I'm up and maybe finish a web series I was watching on YouTube. A few minutes into the video, I feel a sudden urge to look up at the kitchen window, and there they were. The tops of two short-statured people's heads cresting the stairs just above my window frame. The people were just short enough to not see in the window, but I could see out, and I heard no footsteps on my porch as my stomach turned. But the knock was a steady, hollow thump. The very same thump I had blamed on the cat. Deciding it was best not to answer, I shut my laptop and crept by the back door to the baby's room. Oh,
I assumed it was some of the people from the low income housing across the road.
Yeah.
Of course it's them.
Or maybe looking for my cousin who stays with me and has many friends over there. He befriends the low income people. The last thing I need was try to explain to two stoners that I'm trying to sleep.
That's where all the good drugs are.
These people are so judgmental. It wasn't until I got to my daughter's room that the creepiness set in. The thump had moved from the kitchen to the bedroom windows, both windows, a room apart, thumping in perfect time. Oh, okay, now I'm freaked out. These stoners were going to wake up my daughter. If I didn't run them off now, pissed off.
Are they knocking, or what's making this noise?
Well, they were knocking on she heard a knock on the porch and she thought it was the dog scratching. So, but then the windows are thumping.
Well, you don't want to open that window, because a bat might fly in and turn into a vampire.
So, pissed off, I went to the kitchen, and opened the door, ready to run around to the side of the house and kick some little idiot ass.
You don't want to do that. Let me just tell you, people out there, don't do it.
If you're over 18, don't kick the little idiot ass.
Find someone younger. Yeah, take care of my light work.
It happened then, standing there. Stop it. My watch wants to talk now. God.
Yeah, anybody out there who's got an Apple Watch
it just talks
knows
to me.
that it's like having a nagging wife. You breathe. Stand up. It's constantly telling you what to do.
But you know what it's telling me? That we had somebody in my office tested positive for COVID today.
Oh, you better test.
But I did not have. If I had exposure to that person, I will get a separate email letting me know that I have been exposed. And I have been exposed to nobody because nobody in my office comes to work. So I'm pretty sure that nobody...
let's not talk about COVID.
Yeah.
I think people are tired of hearing about COVID.
So yeah, but anyway, that's what my watch would like to tell me, that I have not been exposed to COVID.
Oh, you have not? Okay.
No, somebody in the building has, but not me. So it happened that then we're running out to kick some little idiot ass, and standing there looking up at me were two 10 or 11-year-old boys. Oh, the feeling of dread and the smell of mold almost made me vomit.
Wow.
The smaller of the two then
That'll
spoke.
do it.
May we use your telegraph? I'm just plumb out of telegraphs. I stared blankly at the boys, horrified, and then realized...
They didn't even put a year on this. Maybe it's really old.
Yeah, no, it came...
After 1996, they were done with telegraph.
He says, I then realized that their eyes were pitch black. He asked again to use my telegraph. There wasn't a sound to be heard. No crickets, no dogs, no cars, nothing. I tried to play it cool and ignore the fact that he didn't say telephone, phone, cell, anything that would have made sense of the situation, and calmly replied, I don't have any service at my house. Sorry. The expression on their faces turned to rage as I finished my sentence.
Wow, now they're angry.
They're angry black-eyed children. Well, he was going to go kick some ass, so, maybe they feel you're feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe if you open the door sympathetically, maybe they'll be nice. Yeah. But if you open the door wanting to kick their ass, like, telegraph.
Even if they throw down on you first, you're still going to get in trouble. So close the door.
Just bring me your telegraph.
Bring me your telegraph so I can use it. That's kind of weird.
Swiftly, I shut the door and locked it as quickly as I could, then stumbled back to protect my daughter. I picked her up from her crib and held her close. The fact that she didn't wake up freaked me out the most, but I managed to gather my senses enough to make sure she was still breathing and warm, and her little eyes were not black. The thumps on the windows were back. I dropped to the floor as close to the wall as I could and held my little girl in my arms and wept like a child. Oh, wow. I felt helpless and afraid. I laid there for what felt like hours and hours, crying and shaking until I heard it, my wife's alarm clock. The thumping stopped the instant the alarm went off, and I crept into the master bedroom with the baby. "What's wrong with you?" my wife asked. "I just had a bad dream," is all I could mutter out. "Okay, well, give me the baby so I can feed her before work." I handed my wife the baby. She fed her like any other normal day. Turned on every light in the house and made coffee for her. I walked her out to the car nervously with the baby in my arms. I asked her not to leave until I walked back into the house. She was...
Don't leave. Yeah,
Just
be
leave her
by
there in the
yourself.
car.
Then I'm out of
Well,
here.
you're locked in the car now. I need to be locked in the house. Once I was safely in the house, I locked the door again, and in the house I sat horrified until she got home. I insisted we go to the next town over and stay the weekend at my brother's house, and here I sit horrified while she sleeps in the guest room with my daughter, wondering why they stopped when the alarm went off. I think I know the answer. I was aware of BEKs. She wasn't. Every story I've read about them is from someone who already knew about them. Maybe, just maybe, knowledge of them existing is the only reason they visit. Oh, God, now we know about them and now they're going to come here?
Yeah. Oh.
I was ignorant for all this time.
Well, we did the last show and they didn't arrive.
Yeah.
Well, unless they were the ones here for Halloween, but I think the parents were standing on the street on that one. I couldn't really.
And they didn't say a word about using our phone.
No, they just give me candy.
Give me candy.
Trick or treat. I don't even know if anybody said trick or treat this time. When I just opened the door and they held bags out.
Give me candy. Give me
like,
now.
Kind of like the people that are, at the corner up at Fair Oaks and Manzanita.
They're everywhere.
They want things.
They're on the freeway.
They're getting sunburned palms.
They're on the freeway off-ramp. They're everywhere you go. So this incident, now we're going back 13 years. Well, I don't know when this was published, but this is at least 13 years ago. I moved to a new city with my wife. We were small-town newlyweds from the Midwest. Aww. We moved across country to one of the biggest cities in the Southwest so I could attend graduate school. Being naive and new to city living, I habitually answered the door without a second thought. Never again after this. The first thing that should have tipped me off was that someone was knocking at 6 o'clock in the morning. The second thing is this kid had to reach over a rather tall patio gate to unlatch it and open it. Oh, that's rude. You don't just open gates and walk through. The knock at the door was startling. My wife and I were getting ready for work. The moment I opened the door, I was overtaken with an inexplicable sense of fear. To this day, I can picture him. Teenager, average height, average build, knee-length black leather coat, short black hair, and sunglasses. Is he a Men in Black?
It might be.
The sunglasses at 6 a.m. struck me as odd, and even more odd, he was eating an apple. Well, he was very polite and asked me to come in and warm up. I said no. Closed the door and slid the security chain in place. A moment later, another knock. I opened the now chain door, and before I could speak, he asked again if he could come in and warm up. No, I replied, and attempted to close. What happened to that small town friendliness? I attempted to close the door. Before the door could shut, he put his hand out, stopping the door on its hinges. He looked directly into my eyes, still wearing his sunglasses, and said, "Can I at least get some ketchup for my apple?"
For my apple?
Yeah.
Telegraph, ketchup for your apple.
I yelled, "Get the hell out of here. My wife is calling the police." He takes a moment to let this information sink in, lowers his glasses, revealing eyes as black as obsidian, and says, "No, you won't be calling anybody." At that moment, I force the door closed, lock it, and call out to my wife. She is scared shitless, hiding in the bedroom. I love all the people that stick up for each other. All jacked up on adrenaline, I rip the curtains back to look out the window next to the door. He's gone. Absolutely no trace of him. I go out on the patio and check the gate. It's still latched from the inside. I think to myself as I open I noticed a half-eaten apple lying on the ground.
Oh, need to do some DNA.
He didn't.
So you should call, they need to call somebody. I don't know, back in when I was growing up, what's interesting is, I don't know about your mom, but if a kid would come to the door and said he needed to use the phone, my parents would probably, man, okay.
My mom would not have. She would have said, you give me the number and I'll call.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my dad there, I mean, it was one of those things where he's not scared anymore.
My parents would never answer the door. Most of my life, my parents were the type that would just sit there and not answer the door. As she got older, my mom started letting in all the, like, Jehovah Witness or insurance salesmen that would randomly knock on the door. She would bring them in and chat with them, but that was as she kind of started losing her mind. And she bought insurance from some stranger who just showed up at her doorstep one day. What?
Go ahead and continue on there.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can have that.
Okay. Whoops. I don't know how to work this. All right. All right, now we're good again. This person says, I was having a visceral experience all over my body. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't know about black-eyed kids before this happened to me, which was late summer of last year. I definitely did. Now, in that moment, that idea never crossed my mind, but afterwards, hell yes. And the thought led to all kinds of regret. I realize it's stupid, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about my neighborhood. I live in a poor part of town, a bit ghetto, a bit of the barrio, a bit of the lower economic class of a cross-section of races. It's Los Angeles. The apartment complex spans a short block. It's dusty brown like the desert we live in. Oh, this person's so descriptive.
Wow.
It's got 2 pools, a lot of little Mexican children, and for the most part, a pretty friendly population. I am a destitute writer, trying to make it in Hollywood. So I spend my free time writing. When this happened, I was working mostly the mornings and afternoons. I would get home, hit the gym, then settle in for an evening in front of the computer. It's pretty common for the evenings in the summer to be chaotic around our apartment complex. Kids playing in the pool, ice cream man, blah, blah, blah. Low income but pleasant. Like a mixed race 21st century version of a 50s sitcom. And people will knock on, you can tell this person's a writer. And some people will knock on your door, sometimes to borrow something. I cook so the neighbors come to find out the origins of the great aromas wafting from my kitchen window.
Wow.
Sometimes for a little help on a car. When I hear someone knock, I answer it. Besides buying the occasional candy bar, I smile politely, decline, wish them a nice day, and send them off. No big deal. That evening it was quiet, which was strange in and of itself. I should at least have been able to hear the distant sounds of ranchero music. Oh, he's just so poetic.
Wow.
I heard a couple
Ranchero
people walk
music.
up to my door. I am not the first apartment in the complex, so I usually hear the salespeople as they knock on my neighbor's door. I got up to answer it, reaching for the door handle when a chill went through my body like I've never experienced. A cold tightness in my chest. I halted my hand movement towards the handle and placed it flat on the door as if feeling for heat from a fire. I have a peephole, but it never crossed my mind to use it. Well, maybe it should. I stood there with my hand flat on the door and listened. They knocked again. I don't scare easily, and I wasn't exactly afraid, but I was having a visceral experience all over my body. Yes, I said, who is it? A boy's voice answered, we need to use your phone.
What are these? I mean, it's like a group of these. Okay, now everybody together, they're in a meeting room. Okay, here's what you do.
You use the phone.
Yeah, I gotta use the phone.
And
Everybody got your black eyes on.
And if there's
use
no
the phone.
if phone doesn't work, try bathroom.
Try bathroom.
If they want to
call my mother.
If they want to call the mother, then you need the bathroom. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I started laughing. I stress laugh when I'm in pain or under pressure. They heard me laughing, and neither of us moved for about a minute or two. Finally, they walked away. Not to any of the other 8 doorways within 15 feet, not to ask anyone else. Before they have gone more than a dozen yards, curiosity reasserted itself, and I yanked the door open, running after them to see who it was and where they were headed. The courtyard was completely empty. Afterwards, I thought the experience fit the stories of the black-eyed kids, and I kicked myself for not opening the door, coming face to face with them. How cool would that have been? But then I remembered that feeling, my skin crawling, and a certain knowledge that moment in time there was no way in hell I was opening that door.
Well, we only made it through about half of these.
Oh man, we still got more to go.
I know that went by pretty quick.
We have got to find one where they come in.
We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna make this part 1, and we're gonna continue this at a later time.
Okay.
We'll do an episode or 2. We might take us 2 to finish it up. It's a really interesting.
We're gonna find somebody who let them in.
Yeah, we're also gonna we'll go through a few more of the stories. They're more or less the same. Knock knock, scary.
Phone.
Use your phone, that kind of thing. But we're gonna find out what happens when you let these guys in. What are some of the things that happen? So, thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe podcast. Thanks, Deb. Appreciate you joining us. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook at alienprobe.net. Kept us on YouTube. And Twitter at alienprobepod. And Facebook at alienprobe.net. Thanks to our senior producer, Robert Anthony. If you're missing Dr. Bill, he'll be back with us in a week or so. Gave him the week off. Works very hard. A lot of research going on there. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you.